Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And today, I woke up extremely early, and I'm not. What is surprising is I literally think it was the first night in it's probably been multiple months that I've just slept through. Like I've really been having problems waking up in the middle of the night for a while, and I couldn't really tell you why, but it used to be it's kind of something that's gotten worse as I've gotten older, where I just noticed I was not sleeping through nights. But besides that, I mean, my sleep was relatively good, but man, I think that really makes a difference. And so now that I'm sleeping through nights, it's good. I think it's good. I think that, well, no, I'm not. It was just tonight. I actually have a feeling it's going to be like a fluke essentially because I don't trust that it's going to be like this every night. But basically, what it ended up happening is I ended up waking up way too early. So I mean, that was cool, but due to the shock of the situation, it was like, no, I might as well just try to get some extra sleep because I mean, it gave me a sleep score of like 93 right off the bat. I don't know if it detected I don't think it did because I did attempt to sleep a little bit more after that, but I don't think it ever grabbed it. It must not have been very long or very deep sleep. So the watch never grabbed it. But I did probably I just stayed in bed for a while because I didn't really know what to do with myself. And I was so shocked about the situation. I mean, if things had been different in that regard, then maybe I would have. I'm trying to think where I was going. Yeah, like if I had known I was going to wake up that early, I might have been more. But I was confused as to what I should do because I think it was like 6 hours and 53 minutes. But, you know, I want to try to get closer to 8. I just don't know that I really can, but, you know. So I just wanted to document at least this morning, and as of now, I'm feeling pretty good. And that might be like a pretty big problem. How I don't sleep through the night, even if I wake up for like a brief period of time. It's still I don't think it's a good situation. Now, anyways, I also want to kind of document because this is like the second time it's happened, but I keep having these dreams in these really weird, bad environments. Um, I don't even know. Like they're lousy areas, like in a city. I guess they're like like a bad area in a city. But the city seems kind of strange. Like it seems very large and open, and the way things are, I guess, structured kind of seems that way. Because usually a city is more crammed and cramped. So it's kind of weird, but this is just like the second time that I've had a dream in this type of a setting. I don't believe it was the same setting, but it's just like much larger and much more like built up than a typical city would be and much more open. So it kind of reminds me of some kind of like future hyperdeveloped type of thing or something, but it's just weird because I'm never really in those kind of environments, but yeah, it's like weird. I mean, it's like apartment complexes, but they're kind of more square and larger, and it's more like open, like it's more like almost like construction zones, but it's not. Like it's not a construction zone, it's just normal. The streets are very wide. Is this making sense? Because usually in cities, like, streets are narrow, and you kind of get the sense that there's a lot of people around because there's usually more just stuff. In this case, the only sense that you can see other people around is because there's like homeless people wandering, you know. But there's no cars parked. There's no, like, if for some reason all the space issues that are typically a problem in urban environments, like, are not a problem. So, yeah, I'm just documenting this, and then, the more stressful part of the dream, like, because it was sort of a bad dream. Um, Basically, there's this coworker at my job, and some weird thing happened where, I mean, and this scenario makes no sense anyways, so it's not like a slight towards this person in particular. I just think they happen to be. It was like, I want to say they were late. I want to say they were late or something, or they did something bad, and because of that, we had to all sign this paper and like give it to her. And for some reason, a bunch of people, like the 10 people or whatever who were going to sign this thing, were like, had to drive to their house in order to do the thing, which is like, obviously that's not really usual. It doesn't really make that much sense. And the other thing that makes even less sense is like my mom was driving me and it was in her car, which again, like, it doesn't really, that doesn't make any, because my mom doesn't ever drive me anywhere. Like, she hasn't in years. So it's kind of weird that that's what my brain defaulted me to, because again, I just don't really think my mom has driven me anywhere in like an excessively long time. Obviously, have my own car now, and I don't know when there would have been a circumstance like that. So trying to think. What are we getting at? Oh yeah. So then she was driving me there, and we were getting into this city, but like the more we got into the city, the more kind of terrible it looked, and the more like concerned we were getting because there were people wandering in the streets. I know at one point it seemed like somebody was just trying to walk in front of our car for some reason, like they were trying to make it so we would hit them. Um, And then we finally got to where we needed to go. We parked, and we were trying to get to the apartment lobby where my coworker was and everybody else was. But this person was kind of like trying to talk to us on the way there. Again, like some homeless person who was probably on something. And, we just made it into the lobby, fortunately. And I got there, I was signing my signature on the thing, and I had forgotten this paper that we were given, and then a higher up at the job said, "Oh, that's fine. They don't actually need that paper. It just matters about his signature on the master document." And so I signed my name on the master document, and we were going to be ready to go. And then my mom had immediately tried to leave, because she really wanted to get out of there, because she, like, obviously this was like a really bad area. And when she goes to leave, somebody immediately was like, because it was like there were people waiting outside of this apartment lobby, like waiting to just like harass people. Seemed kind of strange, honestly. And that was one of the people, was this other person. So now there were two people, because there was the person I talked about first, and then there was this new person now. And I don't actually know what happened, but she must have hurt her or something. She must have injured my mom, because my mom then needed to go to the hospital, and I think it was implied that it was a gunshot wound, but it must have been like, and again, I know, like, it doesn't really make that much sense explaining it, but it's like it wasn't really a bad gunshot wound. It was like, I guess it like didn't really go that deep into her or something. I don't really understand. Again, I feel like this is kind of where it was like at loose dream logic, but the point is she was rushed to the hospital, and there were a lot of ambulances around in this city, and that was the thing that was interesting, is that the ambulances were still pretty competent. And you could see them all around the city, but like they were competent. There were a lot of ambulances, and they were competent. They were picking people up. My mom got picked up, rushed to the emergency room, and it all was working out and making a lot of sense. So, there's not really anything too crazy there, right? Like, it's, yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to like, but yeah, I mean, at the end of it, like my mom was fine, you know. The second we got to the hospital, they were like, she's gonna be okay. And that was pretty much that for that segment of the dream. I don't really know that I ever got a follow up about anything. I know later on there was like more plot to the dream, but I don't remember exactly what was going on, but there was moments where I think we were at some kind of school event, and like a lot of people were there, and people were aware of my mom and how she had gotten injured, so people were asking me about it. I don't know what type of school event it was. I don't really know that I could just be forgetting, but it may have just never been disclosed, honestly. But what I do think and know is that there was like a cafeteria, and we were getting food and stuff like that. Like usual, there was. But it's like the usual common theme is finding a bunch of coins. Like I'm always dreaming about finding these like massive stockpiles of coins. Um, it's just like been this thing. Always in all my dreams, finding these stockpiles of coins, and then I meet people I was friends with back in school who I have no contact with anymore for whatever reason. And then yeah, but there's always that's a common theme in my dreams is like it was like by the area where you get food, there was just I mean there were piles of coins. There was piles of coins. Kind of reminds me of a special time in my life, before I was so like I really got I'm just remembering this now. It was at one of the well, this whole period of time I think I was very spiritual and mindful. I never spent money, basically. I mean, I didn't have to because I was living with my parents at the time. This is probably, I want to say, when I was like 16 years old. And so I basically like never engaged with it. I never bought anything because I could get away with it. And I was trying to do some kind of a spiritual exercise, which is obviously not what the typical 16-year-old really cares about doing, but that was what I cared about doing. And I just remember like it was the little things that made me happy back then. Like in a lot of ways I think despite my situation I was pretty happy in general. And what I'm bringing up is one of the track meets that we went to. There was opposing team, like we were at a different school, and underneath the bleachers I was walking around and finding like a bunch of coins to pick up, and I actually found like a good amount. I probably found about, I want to say at least $2, $3 worth of coins. It may have even been more like $4 or $5 worth of coins. At the time, I was really obsessed with picking up money off the ground. I was always kind of like aware and attuned. Like I've always had an awareness of money. I think more so than most people. I don't really think they care. I think they just Like they have money, but they blow it. They use it to purchase things that they like. You know. But I was never really like that. I always kind of knew or had an awareness of the power of money, but at the same time, I've also blown it on stuff too, and I did at the time as well, but I'm saying for a span of like 6 months straight, I didn't buy anything. Like I was really almost religious about that experiment. So, and I'm just remembering like how happy I was. I really was happy that day at the track meet, and I was alone. I did it by myself. Nobody was around me. No one was around. But I was just by myself looking under the bleachers and finding coins. And I remember like I brought everything over at the end, and I like kind of showed it to somebody else, but then somebody else's like jaw dropped. And I remember his reaction to this day because I thought that was funny. He was like shocked at how much money I had found. But it's like it's peaceful moments like that I think it kind of gets lost in the noise. Nowadays everything's all super optimized. I have amazing headphones, amazing earbuds that I definitely would have wanted back then. I could conceive, but the technology didn't exist. I've mentioned it before on this channel. It was comfort and quality didn't really exist, and now I have the AirPod Pro 3s, and they're what I consider to be the first adequate earbud. The first earbud to really punch and do well for like a good listening experience for myself, and one that's also obviously very comfortable and portable and pocketable. So it really is the first. It just is the first. It's the first. It's the first earbud that's really, truly amazing. But what comes with that is like this optimization where now it's like a lot of times you just get used to always having earbuds in. Because especially for myself, I'm thinking, there's GPT prompts I could be listening to, there's advice I could be getting, um, there's just extra language exposure, there's extra talking, which, especially for me, I want to expose myself to as much of as possible for my own, just absorbing speaking and absorbing speaking cadence and just being more into words and things like that. And it becomes this whole like optimization thing where really headphones should always be on. In the modern world, you can have these things that are providing you some type of joy, and it doesn't really matter what actual topic you're doing, what actual thing you're doing, because you're getting something else done simultaneously. So but it's just those kind of quiet moments, I guess, that really, because my mind is not a mind that I even want to drown out. I think a lot of people just put noise in their ears because they're not, maybe they're not at peace with their own thoughts, maybe they're not really comfortable with themselves or wanting to understand themselves. And they, but for me, it's like, I don't even, I think there's been a lot of thoughts that I've come up with that I've liked. And, you know, my mind, I think it's possible that there's been a piece here in front of me this whole time. And I've just been trying so hard to be there for other people, to be compromising with other people, capitulating to other people, that I'm losing my own peace. Like I'm really, and it's because at my core, like I value the people that I know, so that's why I want to put so much effort into them. But at a certain point, it's like it's just not worth it. It's not. It's hardly worth it at all. And so here we are. You know, it's like remembering those moments and remembering how I was able to find like a lot of joy on my own. I think the problem is when things aren't objective, they seem invaluable to me, which it is objectively true that that's the case, but it's not necessarily subjectively true. Like that's the thing about money and work, is that it's time spent doing something that actually matters. The fact that I had fun on that going under the bleachers and finding the coins, I mean, it's good for myself, and it has created like a positive memory and circumstance, but it doesn't matter that I did that. It only matters to me. It only matters to me that I did that. You know, I think most other people have forgotten about the moment, who were there. They don't remember. So it only matters to me, and I think I just don't like that. I mean, I want to do things that really have more weight to them, in an objective sense. It's kind of why I like recording, because at least then I'm talking, but it's talking into something that is made to be tangible, not something that's just going to get, you know, like I'm just talking to myself. Because it could be like that in these car rides where I just talk to myself. Uh, that's fine, but there's no objective value to that. There's just subjective value to it. And I've always been aware of that, and I think it's something that, again, most people likely just don't really. Anytime I've talked to people about it, they just don't care. They just want to do what they want to do, and they're doing what they're doing, and, that's it. Like, there's not much else going on. At least that's how I kind of interpret things. I don't know. It seems like a lot of people don't really have that much thought or foresight about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and you know the difference between subjective and objective value about it, I don't think people are there. I've talked to people, it doesn't seem like it to me. I don't know though. Just not sure. But it really doesn't seem like it. I think most people just, whatever crosses their mind, whatever they want, and don't really care too much about what other people care about or value unless it's, just happens to be. Like, I don't think people really try to be aware of that or quantify it. I think instead like if they care about it and somebody else cares about it and it has value, well, then they're going to care about it. But that's not because there was objectivity. Like that, it's just a big mess. And I think that's kind of how humans process, and or like it's like they want something, and then if somebody else wants it, then obviously they would want it more to like compete. But that's still a subjective perception. It's not trying to understand, like, well, and calculate, well, what would be a more valuable interest? What would be a higher interest? Most people have whatever interest they have, and I just don't think it really matters to them all that much. You know? Whereas with me, like, I don't even really want to do something if it has subjective value to me, but it doesn't have objective value. I don't even want to do it. Whereas, like, it's like most people just don't have that problem. They're fine with just doing things alone. Um, it doesn't have to have any other value or any type of object. Like, people just do stuff because they want to do stuff, and then if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. So I guess it's actually a good perceptive skill. Like, it's pretty valuable that I think in the way I do, and I can interpret and distinguish, okay, this is actually like a special good quality thing, this isn't, because most people just don't really do that. But at the same time, it's not like it's all good, because I think, again, it gets difficult because I'm still a human, and so you still kind of need those subjective things for happiness just to be like able to live a happy, chill life. And if you can't do that, if you can't figure that out, then it affects your mental state. Because now, my mental state may not be as good, or I may not be as happy as I could be otherwise. There's a lot of these kind of things that go on. So it's a good trait, but I don't feel that it's all that advantageous to this reality. At least, maybe as a child, maybe it's one of those things where, again, once I'm an adult, maybe it's actually going to matter a lot once I can get my feet on the ground, and if I can get my feet on the ground. Because, like I said, even talking about it now, it is a pretty valuable trait to have. Like, it's not at all, um, not at all a problem. So, just don't know. Alright, we had amazing light luck, but I'm gonna call it. So, it's been Schla, and now it's time to buy Schla. So, see you, Schla.